Welcome to this session. I'm Sylvia Knight, Head of Education for the Royal Meteorological Society.
This November should have seen COP26, a round of climate talks bringing together heads of state, climate experts and campaigners to agree coordinated action to tackle climate change. It's been postponed to next year, but I'd like to introduce you to this set of resources, which allows you to recreate the COP process in your school or with another group, if COVID restrictions allow. The negotiations begin by people being assigned to one of 10 countries. It's very important that, for the duration of the activity, they try to think as a delegate of that country, representing the interests of their country and not their personal viewpoints.
We've all heard of climate change and something about the expected impacts on people and the environment. No one person or even one country can prevent climate change by itself. For this reason, governments have been meeting every year since 1995 to try to establish global agreements on how greenhouse gas emissions should be reduced. But these negotiations are immensely difficult. Every country wants to make sure that they are not going to lose out financially, and no one wants to see limits placed on how their country can develop in the future. At the same time, everybody acknowledges the need for climate change action. Over the next few sessions, you are going to take on the role of a delegate at one of these meetings. You will be representing one country, and the key thing is to remember to represent all the interests of that country, not what you personally may or may not think about climate change. First, you'll have a chance to learn about the country you are representing. Next, you will learn about climate change, the science, the politics and the potential solutions, and what implications it may have for your country. For example, who should pay for countries to adapt to climate change or to make changes that reduce their greenhouse gas emissions? The Green Climate Fund is there to address this problem. High-income countries pay into the fund, countries who are in the past or are currently contributing to climate change. Lower-income countries receive the money. Climate change negotiations usually focus on the ultimate change in the Earth's climate. 2 degrees isn't a safe level of climate change. There will be unpleasant consequences even if the temperature doesn't rise that much. However, it is easy to understand and a useful marker of how we're doing at limiting climate change that has helped focus people's minds on the scale of the challenge. A global average warming of 2 degrees centigrade will mean that some places warm by more and some by less than 2 degrees. Similarly, precisely how much warmer it is will vary with the season and the type of the weather. 1.5 degrees is a similar target. One large difference between a 2 degree or a 1.5 degree target is the level of long-term sea level change. Many low-lying countries, such as the Maldives, strongly support a 1.5 degree target, but it would require a much more drastic reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. At the end of the activity, you will have to present your position to your fellow delegates and negotiate with them diplomatically. Just like in a real event, you can only achieve a meaningful result if you persuade other countries to do their fair share. Together, you will see whether you can reduce your greenhouse gas emissions enough to limit global climate change to 2 degrees centigrade or even 1.5 degrees. Using this graph, you'll see whether, together, you have pledged enough to reduce climate change to 2 degrees, the blue line, or 1.5 degrees, the green line. You'll also see whether you can contribute enough money to the Green Climate Fund. Can you fill the money pot between you? But the most important thing is to act the part of the country you are representing and to deal with the time pressure. The race to reach an agreement is on.
As some people may not know very much about the country they are representing, they now have the chance to find out about it using short animations, as well as fact sheets and mood boards. This should allow them to complete a negotiation card with important basic information about their country. They now have the opportunity to come together for the first time with the other delegates representing their country to discuss their country and what they have learned about it. In the next activity, the delegates visit 2 out of 3 marketplaces to collect information about the climate change challenge facing the world. The first marketplace is a card sort activity, where delegates consider the 1.5 and 2 degree targets, as well as tipping points, and considering whose responsibility climate change is. The second marketplace is a trading game. Each delegate is randomly assigned a strategy for either reducing climate change, that's mitigation, or adapting to it as it happens. By negotiating with the other delegates, they then try to end up with a strategy that is best suited to their country. In the third marketplace, delegates consider economics, looking at issues of climate justice. Who should be paying more into the Green Climate Fund? Who should be getting money towards helping their country adapt to climate change or mitigate its effects?
Delegates, hopefully you're beginning to get a feel for what your country should contribute towards a global agreement on climate change. Next, you will need to prepare a draft pledge, a promise of what your country will do to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions and of how your country will contribute to the Green Climate Fund. In the next session, you'll negotiate with the other delegates to see whether, between you can pledge enough to reach a 2 degree target. But remember, don't overcommit your country. What can you reasonably achieve? You are representing the interests of your country. Don't let your personal opinions about climate change get in the way of the interests of your country. You'll also need to prepare a short speech, which you will deliver to the assembled delegates. You can use the template on the back of your negotiation card if you like, but make sure that you take the time to share some information about your country and justify your pledges on the basis of your country's needs, development, climate vulnerabilities and economics. The clock is ticking. There will be a considerable amount of time pressure if we are to achieve an agreement in the next session.
The country delegations then have time to come together and decide what their country strategy is going to be. What are they going to pledge in terms of greenhouse gas emissions and contributions to the Green Climate Fund? How are they going to represent their country to the assembled delegations? There is a template for a speech which they can use if they like, or they can write their own. The final part of the activity, which is very much the climax of everything that's happened so far, is introduced by Gillian Cook, the UK's lead negotiator for science issues and part of the UK COP26 presidency. As you go into this session, it's a great opportunity to involve drama students from the school or other people. Maybe they can stage a student climate strike outside the room the negotiations are occurring in, or maybe they can lobby the delegates on their way in. All this will really add realism to the negotiations.
Delegates, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We're now more than halfway through the conference and the clock is ticking. You've already learned about the causes and risks of climate change and how these will affect your country. You've also learned about the goal to hold warming to well below 2 degrees and pursue efforts towards 1.5 degrees, and about the annual $100 billion climate finance target. It's now your task to negotiate with the other countries to make sure that your commitments to reduce emissions and to provide financial support are enough to reach these 2 targets. It's a global problem. The solution can only be achieved if you work together. Between you can you manage to bring the red emissions curve down to the blue level, where the global temperature rise should be limited to 2 degrees, or even to the green 1.5 degree level? In a few minutes, 5 countries will be asked to present a first version of their country's position. While you listen to these, think about whether you agree with their position. Who do you need to challenge? Have the major emitters, that's the EU, Australia, Russia, China, India and the USA, offered to make a sufficiently ambitious change? These are the countries that can make a real difference to the outcome. Have the Maldives, Nigeria, Venezuela and Bangladesh really explained why they are in such a precarious situation? Are the rich nations pledging enough to the Green Climate Fund? Again, they are the ones who are going to make a big difference. Are the other countries doing more or less than you? Make notes. You will then have an opportunity to challenge them. If they're not challenged, they well may not improve their pledges. Can you defend your position? The remaining countries will then be asked to present their country's position. Again, you'll have another opportunity to challenge all the countries. Then everyone will have a couple of minutes to finalise their pledges. At the end, we'll use a simulator to see whether your combined pledges put the world on a path that ensures enough emission reductions to stay well below 2 degrees, or even limit it to 1.5 degrees. Finally, you'll be asked to vote to decide whether, together, you accept all the pledges which have been made. Remember, we need a unanimous vote. Even if one country chooses not to accept the pledges the other countries have made, none of the pledges will be binding, and it'll be like being back above the orange line. Even if you don't like the pledges, is it better than nothing? Now it's time to get started. Thank you and good luck.
The delegates then deliver their draft pledges. After each batch, there is an opportunity for the countries to challenge each other to see whether the pledges can be improved. Delegates are then invited to finalise and deliver their final pledges. As the pledges are given, the teacher or other person leading the negotiations puts the pledges into an Excel spreadsheet. You can see, pledge by pledge, how global temperatures respond to the pledges. Is enough pledged to limit temperature rise to 2 degrees or even to 1.5 degrees C? Finally, the delegates vote to decide whether, together, they accept all the pledges which have been made. A unanimous vote is needed if even one country chooses not to accept the pledges the other countries have made. It will be like being back on the orange line, as if no pledges at all have been made. Most groups don't find that they are able to achieve either target. It's a real eye-opener in terms of the challenge faced by the delegates to COP. I'd like to encourage you to use the negotiations in school or anywhere else. It's designed to fit in 2 standard lessons, or you can use it as a one-off event. And you can find all the resources you need on the Society's website, www.metlink.org. It works best in groups of between 20 and 30 people, and it's aimed at people aged over 13. But the real only prerequisite is an understanding of what a greenhouse gas emission is.
A vision statement to finish with. I'd like to see a world where we protect our natural environment for the benefit of all people. I would call for world leaders to take the opportunity that the COVID crisis has given us to build back greener, and to only support those industries which will really help us to meet and maybe even exceed our emission targets. Thank you very much.